in Europe and the Russian Revolution. So our first question is, what were the social, economical and political conditions in Russia before 1905? So answer, the social, economical and political condition in Russia before 1905 was backward. Social conditions, 85% of the Russia's population was agriculturists, that is, were farmers. Industry was extinct. There were no industries, but rarely in which of the most was privately owned. Some of the private industries were there. Workers were divided on the basis of their occupation. They mainly migrated, means just one place to another. They used to go to the cities for the employment, that is for the job in the factories. The peasants, that is the farmers community, was deeply religious, but did not care much about the nobility. They believed that the land must be divided amongst themselves. Then economic conditions, Russia was going through bad period economically. Prices of the essential goods rises while real wages decreased 20%. Real wages means the payment of the people, leading to the famous St. Petersburg strike. So at that time the Petersburg strike was held. This strike started a series of events that are together known as the 1905 revolution. During this revolution, there were strikes all over the country. Universities closed down and various professionals and the workers established the Union of the Unions, demanding the establishment of the Constituent Assembly. The political conditions were parties were illegal before 1914. The Russian Social Democratic Workers' Party was founded in 1898 by socialists who respected Marx's ideas. In 1903, this party was divided into two groups, that is, Mensheviks and the Bolsheviks. The Bolsheviks, who were in majority, were led by Lenin, who is regarded as the greatest thinker on the socialism after the Marx. Our question number 2, in what way the workers' population in Russia different from other countries in Europe before 1917? So answer, the working population in Russia was different from the other countries in Europe before 1917 because not all Russian workers migrated from the villages to work in the industrial sectors. Some of them continued to live in villages and went to work daily to the towns. They were a divided group socially and professionally, and this showed in their dress and manners too. On the dress they could be identified. Metal workers were the aristocrats of the working class because their occupation demanded more training and skill. Nevertheless, the working population was united on one front: strikes against work conditions and employers' tyranny. Why did the Tsarist autocracy collapse in 1917? The Tsar first dismissed the initial two Dumas and then packed the parliament with the conservatives. During the First World War, the Tsar took a decision without consulting the Duma. Large-scale casualties of the Russian soldiers in the war further alienated the people from the Tsar. Burning of the crops and building by the retreating Russian armies created huge shortage of the food in the Russia. All of this led to the collapse of the Tsarist autocracy in 1917. Our fourth question, make two lists, one with the main events and the effects of the February Revolution and the other with the main events and the effects of the October Revolution. Write a paragraph on who was involved in each, who were the leaders, and what was the impact of each of the Soviet history. Now, February Revolution will the 22nd February, factory lockout on the right bank took place. 25th February, Duma was dissolved. 27th February, police headquarters ransacked. Regiments supported the workers' formation of the Soviet and 2nd March, the Tsar abdicated his power. The Soviet and the Duma leaders formed a provisional government for Russia. The February Revolution had no political party at its forefront. It was led by the people themselves. The Petrograd had brought down the monarchy and thus gained a significant place in Soviet history. Trade unions grew in number. Now the list of the October Revolution. October Revolution in 16 October. On 16th October, a military revolutionary committee was appointed by Soviet. 24th October, the uprising against the provisional government began. Military revolutionary committee controls the city by night and ministers surrendered. Then the Bolshevik gained power. The October Revolution was primarily led by Lenin and his subordinates, that is Trotsky, and involved the masses who supported these leaders. It marked the beginning of the Lenin's rule over the Soviet, with the Bolsheviks under his guidance. Question number 5. What were the main changes brought about the Bolsheviks immediately after the October Revolution? Answer. The main changes which were brought about by the Bolsheviks immediately after the October Revolution, that were banks and industries were nationalized. Then land was declared social property, thereby allowing peasants to seize it from the nobility. In urban areas, houses were partitioned according to the family and then family requirements. Old aristocratic titles were banned and new uniforms were designed for the army and the officers. New uniforms were introduced for the army and the officers. Then our question number 6 is, write a few lines to show what you know about the clerks, the Dumas, the women workers between 1900 and 1930, the liberals, Stalin collectivization program. So answer, first one we will write about the, it is, first one is the kulaks. It is a Russian term by wealthy peasants who Stalin believed were hoarding grains to gain more profit. By 1927 and 28, the town of the Soviet Russia were facing an acute problem of the grain supplies. Kulaks were thought to be the party responsible for this. Also, to develop modern farms and run them along industrial lines, the party under the leadership of the Stalin thought it was necessary to eliminate kulaks. And our second answer is, during 1905 revolution, the Tsar allowed the creation of an elected consultative parliament in Russia. This elected consultative parliament in Russia was called Duma. Third one is, they made up 31% of the factory laborers force by 1914, but were paid almost half and 3/4 of the wages. That means not full of the wages were being given to the peasants and all the workers, given to the men here. However, interestingly, it were the women workers who led the way to strikes during the February Revolution. Then our fourth answer is, the espoused a nation that was tolerant towards all religions, one that would protect individual rights against the government. Although the liberals wanted an elected parliamentary form of the governance, they believed that the right to vote must only belong to the men and that to the ones who were property holders. Stalin believed that the collectivization of the agriculture would help in improving grain supplies in Russia. He began collectivization in 1929. All peasants were forced to cultivate in collective farms, and the bulk of the land and implements were transferred to the ownership of the collective farm. Many peasants protested such attempts and destroyed livestock to show their anger. Collectivization did not bring the desired result in the food supply situation, turned even worse in the subsequent years. So this was the questions of the second chapter of the history. Thank you.